Welcome to the Flaneurs. This is our fourth video, and today we will be exploring the City of London. We'll be reaching out to the western parts of the city. We've arrived at Liverpool Street, and it's an hour or so till we see our friend Steve. So we're going to do an extra bit for this vlog. We're going to walk around Spitalfields. The market now has this vibrant retail and eating stroke food sector, and it's a great meeting place. I know lots of people aren't so enamoured with that and prefer its previous identity, feeling it's lost some of its soul and history. I tend to disagree. Let us know in the comments what you think. It was some 20 years ago that our friend, vlogger John Rogers, and the comedian Russell Brand campaigned against the new identity for Spitalfields. So I guess it's become what they wanted it not to become. As I said, let us know what your thoughts are. We're passing through Brick Lane, and you can see the site of the Truman Brewery, established in 1666, closed some 300 years later, but thankfully re-established in 2010. Brick Lane and the surrounding streets resonate with so much history. Look, we're just not even touching the surface of it, and that's somewhat of a frustration with these vlogs from time to time, that you walk around these streets and you think, well, look, I'm just covering about 1% or even less of its history, but hopefully you enjoy them. I mean, Brick Lane has such a strong identity. You walk down this street at 11 o'clock at night, you've got the curry houses, you've got art galleries, you've got some interesting and diverse shops, you've got Truman's Brewery, you've got so much more history than we can even begin to tell you. It's quite a magical place. Now, if you like our videos and we're trying to build a subscription, then please feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have you along on our journey. We're learning how to do these videos, and yeah, please let us know what you think in our comments, and please subscribe. Once we come off the historic Brick Lane, we're going to work our way down Quaker Street and Wader Street, get back on the commercial road past the commercial tavern pub, and then we'll work our way down one of my favourite streets in Spitalfields, Holborn Street. What I love about this area is that tension between historic old Spitalfields and the new city that's emerging. I know a lot of people may disagree with that, and I'd like just to credit the wonderful work of the architect Dan Cruikshank, who's done so much to preserve old Spitalfields. But it does make for very interesting views, seeing this dynamic contrast. You had this juxtaposition of social housing, of old council housing, with very much the tower block developments, both commercial and residential, happening around the eastern parts of the city, moving on from Bishopsgate into Shoreditch. It's an area that, in my lifetime of working in the city, which is something like 30-40 years now, I've seen change dramatically. We're now on the famous commercial road, an interesting road. The writer Ian Sinclair and Peter Ackroyd talk about commercial road as having this dark, sinister history, this dark, sinister atmosphere. I don't know what you think. Is this a power suggestion? But I tend to agree with them. Again, let me know what your thoughts are. We're now turning off Commercial Road, we're turning right into Folgate Street. As I said, one of my favourite streets in these parts. It's got an amazing history to it. As I said previously, we'll come back and explore it in more detail. But whilst we walk down Folgate Street and get ourselves onto Bishopsgate, we'll talk a little bit about Dennis Severs and Batty Langley's. It'll all be very brief. As I said, we're waiting to meet up with Steve. He's delayed us a little bit because he's more interested in having a bacon sandwich, I think, than walking through Folgate Street. Dennis Severs was a remarkable character. He sadly departed this world only at the age of 50. He was seen as quite an eccentric character in these parts. He would dress as a Georgian gentleman. He would go around in a horse and cart. But he, together with Dan Cruikshank, did a lot to preserve this area. And his house is a wonderful time capsule on London Georgian life, the smells and the sounds. And going into the house itself, you can see how the kitchens would have looked at that time, how furniture looked, how all the draperies and curtains and carpets would have looked at the time. Batty Langley is now a hotel and it's been restored in the Georgian style. I've had the privilege of staying there a couple of times, and it's quite a privilege waking up in the morning in this wonderful Georgian recreation and just hearing the sights of the city and imagining perhaps how it would have been 200-300 years ago. You know, we're once again back in that time machine that we talked about in our last video. Whilst we were outside Batty Langley's and the Dennis Severs house, we actually got stopped by a group of builders who asked us what we were doing. Was someone famous or someone who had been famous living in these properties? And we felt quite chuffed. It's the first time we've been stopped on these walks, so it made us feel very important for about 5 seconds. We'll be leaving Folgate Street soon and getting back onto Bishopsgate, and we'll just leave you with some still pictures of our very brief visit through Spitalfields today. Highlight perhaps being the Nicholas Hawksmoor Church. As you know, we love our Nicholas Hawksmoor Church, that church being Christ Church, Spitalfields. So hopefully you enjoy that. We'll be back naturally in the future to look at Christchurch Spitalfields in much more detail, but hopefully you enjoy it. If you want to look at more of the still pictures, I'll give you my Instagram account details at the end. We put something like 30 to 40 pictures of Spitalfields on our posts, so perhaps if you're interested you could go and have a look at them. We're on Bishopsgate now. This view always blows my mind. I've seen it change so many times over the years. On our right we'll see 199 Bishopsgate. I used to work in an office there back at the end of the 90s. To our left we see some new commercial development, and I remember this place fondly because there used to be a 25-metre swimming pool on the left hand side, very near the market, very close to a place called Fat Boy's Diner. I don't know if anybody remembers it from about 20-25 years ago. This is where I'd go every lunchtime for a 45 to 55 minute swim. It's got really fond memories for me. We just went past Fenchurch Avenue, and this is where my place of work is. I went back there yesterday for the first time in nearly 2 years. It was quite a weird experience. It was like returning after a long voyage around the world, but not to be too flippant about it, let's remember all those people who have suffered and lost their lives during this awful COVID. And whatever your God is, then make sure you say a prayer for those people who have lost their lives. We're now in Leadenhall Market, and crikey, hasn't this place got some history? It's celebrating its 700th anniversary this year, formed in 1321, and was originally the meat, poultry and meat market for London. Now it's a great place to socialise, to eat and to drink. One of my particular favourite pubs is the New Moon on the left hand side. I also used to go to a wonderful place down one of the little alleyways on the left hand side. It was a real ale bar called Crafty's, but sadly it's not survived the pandemic, so it's no longer. As we pass the New Moon on the left hand side, we'll come out to Great Church Street, and then we're in for a real treat because just to our right hand side is a hairdresser's. Steve, our friend, had his hair cut in this hairdresser's for 10 years by a lady called Eileen, so he's been able to effect an introduction, and we've got the real privilege here. We've really got lucky. We're able to go into the basement here and see what's left, or parts of what is left of the old Roman Basilica. Now, this is where the main administration, financial and judicial centre was. It was quite an impressive building that stretched in all directions for several hundred metres. And we'll alert you to an article in Spitalfields Life that gives a very good description of what you see. Hope you enjoy that footage that we've been able to show you, albeit very briefly. I know there's evidence of Roman history in lots of parts of London. You can see the Roman wall around Tower Bridge and in Aldersgate, but there was something really special about seeing evidence of a Roman building under the streets of Leadenhall Market. We've quickly made our way onto Cornhill past the counting house, and we're now turning left into St Michael's Alley, and look what we see before us. We see the Jamaica Wine House, the site of London's first coffee house in 1652. We know the City of London as this great city of trade, perhaps the greatest city of trade in the world, and dealing in the commodity of coffee helped cement that. But now we've come on to Lombard Street, and if we look at its history, that might give a real clue into the growth of London as this great trading city. Lombard Street had its origins as one of the main Roman roads into London, or as it was then known, Londinium, and also formed an area, a plot of land that was granted by Edward I to goldsmiths from a part of northern Italy known as Lombardy. Now, these settlers from Lombardy, these goldsmiths, were moneylenders and financiers, and this really was the starting of the London banking industry. Many of London's top banks, until recent times, we're talking maybe the last 20-30 years, had their headquarters in Lombard Street. It's fair to say over the ages the UK banking industry has seen its fair share of crisis. We saw it in 2008, and it's been a regular common occurrence over centuries, and Lombard Street has often been the scene of panic activity as people queue outside banks in order to preserve their assets. People often say that the streets of London are paved with gold. Well, the reality is often very, very different, and Lombard Street to me sums up that mixture of fortunes, wealth and financial loss. Lombard Street is a place where fortunes have been made and where fortunes have been lost, and the street could certainly tell a tale or two. We think of London now as the financial capital centre of the world. Some might dispute that, some might think Tokyo or New York, but I think it's fair to say that its birthplace as a great modern financial centre, that birthplace was Lombard Street. We'll soon leave Lombard Street and we'll come to Bank Junction. On the left hand side we'll see another Nicholas Hawksmoor church. This is St Mary's Walneth, and to many architects it's the most brutal, sinister machismo of all the Hawksmoor churches, and being suitable in its location, being at the end of Lombard Street, if you like, the centre of London, the City of London's financial industry. Of course, many years ago the financial sector in London was very male dominated, but thankfully it's now very different. Even in my 30 years in the city, I've seen great changes, and they've been very beneficial changes. Its most famous rector was someone called John Newton, who was born in 1725. He was born the son of a mariner in Wapping, East London, and in his early years was involved in the slave trade, but he underwent religious conversion and became a very strident and prominent member in the anti-slavery movement. In 1788, John Newton wrote a pamphlet called Thoughts Upon the African Slave Trade. It revealed his past as a slave trader. It condemned the trade and expressed regret at his part in it. Later that year, Newton was amongst the witnesses called by the Parliamentary Select Committee for examining the slave trade. When questioned by Parliament, Newton provided detailed evidence of the treatment and conditions suffered by slaves in transit. And in response to their arguments about the economic advantages of slavery, Newton quoted, "It is not lawful to put it into the treasury, because it is the price of blood." Not many better arguments can be put forward to the abolition of slavery than that from that comment. We're now at Bank Junction, and we can see Mansion House, and we can see the Bank of England. We're going to walk past Cheapside. Again, we'll come back to that at some future date. That really is a street that's worthy of a vlog in itself. And we're quickly going to make our way onto Newgate Street. We'll be very soon coming to the Holborn Viaduct Tavern, and we'll see the Old Bailey on our left hand side. We've gone into the Holborn Viaduct Tavern, we've had a quick pint, and we've asked the barman Lorenzo if we could go down into the cellars of the pub. I've had a lot of people in the past talk about the cells and the racks from Newgate Prison, so we just want to have a look ourselves. My own belief is that the prison was never on this site. There's a blogger I'll mention in a few moments who supports that opinion. We'll see some footage of our time in the cellars of the Viaduct Tavern. I hope you enjoy the footage. Many thanks to Lorenzo again for allowing us in. You can see the what I believe is the racks from the prison. I don't believe, as I said, it was the site of Newgate Prison. I think the pub has at some point taken possession of the racks, but it still gives an atmosphere of what the prison may have looked like. You get a real impression of the dark, dank, sinister, miserable conditions that many of the prisoners of Newgate Prison would have undergone, and it's, well, not particularly a pleasant experience, is it? I always think of the Gordon riots of 1780, when there were riots against the Papists Act 2 years earlier, and people ransacked Newgate Prison, allowing the prisoners to be set free. And also I've got images of Jack Sheppard with his numerous escapes from the prison. In the words of Peter Berthold, he talks about the pub's origins being 1869 and the dismantling of Newgate Prison not being completed until 1902. So the thoughts of there being parts of Newgate Prison actually in the cellars of the Viaduct Tavern are probably not true, though the pub did get possession, I'm sure, at some stage of some racks from the prison. And whether you believe it or not, it's quite a story, and we feel quite privileged to be here. We've now come to the Church of St Sepulchre without Newgate. Crikey, just the name is fantastic. The church bells are mentioned in the nursery rhyme Oranges and Lemons as the bells of Old Bailey. The church is famous for the execution bill, where between the 17th and 19th century the clerk of the church would go to the condemned man's cell the night before his execution, maybe at Tyburn, and ring out the bell with the following comment: "All you that in the condemned hold to lie, prepare you, for tomorrow you shall die. Watch all and pray, the hour is drawing near, that you before the Almighty must appear. Examine well yourselves, in time repent, that you may not to eternal flames be sent. And when Sepulchre's bells tomorrow tolls, the Lord above have mercy on your souls, past 12 o'clock." We'll see abutted to the church, the Watchman's Tower, built in 1791. Now, in these times, body snatching for money was a problem in this area. So there would be the watchman making sure that no one was digging up the bodies of the deceased. Of course, we're near to St Bart's Hospital, and body snatchers would sell body parts for medical examination just over the road. It reminds me of the film Plunkett McLean from 1999, starring Johnny Lee Miller, Robert Carlyle and Liv Taylor, where the characters played by Johnny Lee Miller and Robert Carlyle become body snatchers, highwaymen, and eventually end up in Newgate Prison. We've now moved on from the Watchman's Tower and the church, and we've now come to Pye Corner, and you can see the Golden Fricker of the Boy. We're opposite Smithfields Meat Market and next to St Bart's Hospital, and this is where reputedly in 1666 where the fire of London was eventually extinguished, reaching its furthest part from Pudding Lane, and this was meant to be a sign of gluttony, and Londoners were seen as gluttonous fellows, and this was apparently retribution from God for this sin. We're now very close to Smithfields Meat Market, and this area has seen great change and is going to see further change. Smithfields has been here for nearly 800 years, and with Leadenhall Fish Market and new Spitalfields Fruit and Veg Market, we'll be moving to a new location on the Thames in Dagenham very shortly. Smithfield itself will be taken over by the Museum of London, and there will be office and retail development on the far edges, western edges of Smithfields, which has been derelict for the last 20 or 30 years. We'll let you enjoy these sites for a few moments without any chat. We've happened to come along to Ely Place. We're now officially in the county of Cambridgeshire. We're not officially in the jurisdiction of the City of London. There's a long story behind that. We won't go into it in this video. We'll explore it in further videos to come. Bloggers like John Rogers and Jules Guides have gone into this in some detail in their vlogs recently. We're going to stop for lunch at the Old Mitre Church. Originates, I believe, from 1546. Happens to be one of our favourite pubs in London, and we'll show you some footage within the pub. Hope you enjoy it. We're now coming out onto Hatton Garden, the site of London's famous jewellery and diamond district, the scene of the heist from several years ago, and we'll be walking down Hatton Garden for a while and then coming back on ourselves, crossing over the busy junction that is close to High Holborn, and then going down Shoe Lane. We're just passing the church of St Andrew, Holborn, and very shortly we'll be getting onto Fleet Street. We got onto Fleet Street from Shoe Lane, passed up an alleyway past the old Cheshire Cheese, and we're now at the house of the famous Samuel Johnson, and you will see Steve entertaining Samuel Johnson's famous cat, Podge, a mighty fine cat indeed. Dr. Johnson's house in Gough Square is open to the public, and I would highly recommend a visit. We've now headed north and we've got ourselves back onto Farringdon Road, and we're now just passing Farringdon Tube Station. We're near a part of London known as Little Italy. We're now going to finish this part of the walk in one of our favourite pubs called the Jerusalem Tavern. It's a pub owned by St Peter's Brewery, who are based near Beccles in Suffolk. And it seems a very appropriate and apt place for the Anglian Flaneurs to finish their third vlog in London. I hope you've enjoyed our vlog today. We'll be putting another vlog out from the Jerusalem Tavern. We did walk over Blackfriars Bridge and spend the rest of the day at the Christmas by the River Christmas market, and we'll be putting that out on our next vlog. If you like what we're about and you want to follow our channel, then please subscribe. As I said, I know we went a little light on the facts in the latter parts of the vlog, but I hope you enjoyed what we had to say. So just finally, please subscribe, and I'll say cheerio from the Anglian Flaneurs.